Deadpool is a chaotic tornado for the Marvel Universe, but just because he's the Merc with the mouth, it doesn't mean he spills all of his secrets. Today I'm talking about all of Deadpool's hidden secrets that you may not have known about, and once I tell you, you may not look at Wade the same way. Let's get started. At his core, Deadpool's just a big romantic. I mean, yeah, he loves to cause chaos and destruction wherever he goes, but we all know he has things he absolutely adores. Chimichangas, the Golden Girls, and death. No, I don't mean like dying, I mean the embodiment of death. Yeah, these two crazy kids fell in love with each other, and it created a very complicated situation for everyone involved. So the setup is basically your everyday rom-com. When Wade was being turned into Deadpool, meaning being tortured so much that he was super close to death all the time, he met Death and became infatuated with her. They would cross paths all the time since Deadpool lives a pretty near-death lifestyle, and they totally crushed on each other. Of course, the big Mad Titan-sized problem with their relationship was Thanos. Thanos also was in love with Death and did everything in his power to keep the two of them apart. Man, if I lost the person I loved to Deadpool, I just might turn into a Mad Titan too. Thanos pulled the ultimate jerk move though on Deadpool by cursing Deadpool with immortality. This may seem like a great gift, but really all it did was keep Death and Deadpool apart from each other. Their relationship has strained over the years, but there's one specific storyline with a choose your favorite ending type of situation, with one of them being how Deadpool becomes king of hell with Death by his side. Happily ever after, I suppose? Tony Stark has Pepper Potts, Steve Rogers has Peggy Carter, Deadpool has Lady Death. I wish we could have seen a triple date. So this might be one of the most well-known secrets that Deadpool has, but I think it's just a lot of fun. We all know that Spider-Man and the Venom Symbiote have a complicated relationship with each other. Spider-Man originally found the Venom Symbiote in Reed Richards' lab during the OG Secret Wars. Peter took the symbiote home with him, and for a while, Peter had an awesome new suit that gave him a bunch of incredible abilities. Only, of course, it came with the downside of making Peter more aggressive, and when Peter got rid of the suit, it bonded with Eddie Brock. Easy, right? Well, there was a special retelling of Secret Wars specifically from Deadpool's perspective that was published years later. Sure, some may argue it's canon, but Deadpool himself swears his version is the most accurate version, and who are you really gonna believe? Personally, I always believe Deadpool, and that isn't just because he's standing next to me with a very large sword to my throat. Anyways, Deadpool actually stumbles upon the Venom symbiote first, and even bonds with it. It gives him a pretty awesome looking costume too. But Deadpool immediately realizes that the symbiote is feeding off of his thoughts and doesn't think that's very fair for the symbiote, so he leaves it behind. Though he does say how he hopes that the quick merge didn't mess with the symbiote's psyche and cause it to go nuts or anything. It's a fun way to suggest that Deadpool is actually responsible for Venom being so crazy. Did you know that Deadpool wielded the Infinity Gauntlet before Thanos used it to wipe out the universe? Yeah, it's true. In a very tongue-in-cheek lost tale, it's revealed that Deadpool got his hands on the gauntlet first. So what happened was that Thanos, always the type of guy to hire someone else to do his dirty work, hired Deadpool to steal the Cosmic Cube for him. But Deadpool double-crosses Thanos, steals the Infinity Gauntlet from him, and then blows Thanos up in his Thanos copter. Then Deadpool is the one who snaps his fingers. And no, as much as we'd all like him to snap his fingers and greenlight 50 more Deadpool movies, something else happened instead. Deadpool changed the universe so that everyone would be invited to a big roast where they would all make fun of Deadpool and each other. The event was moderated by Howard the Duck, who brought an air of authenticity to the whole proceeding, if I do say so myself. Anyways, we got to see heroes roast each other, and while some unsurprisingly bombed, Thor isn't as funny in the comics as he is in the movies, folks. Others shone when given the chance. But when things got a little out of hand, Deadpool realizes that this isn't a proper existence for the characters. Only he should be burdened with the knowledge of knowing he's in a comic book and doesn't want to burst the bubble for everyone else. So he uses the gauntlet to turn everything back to normal. As much as I'm super stoked to see Deadpool and Wolverine team up in live action, I can't say that I'm completely satisfied with this pairing. I know in real life Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are great friends, and it makes Deadpool 3 incredibly exciting for that aspect, but character-wise, the Deadpool and Wolverine team-up doesn't feel that exciting. Oh, Deadpool's teaming up with a gruff, no-nonsense tough guy? Yeah, that's the same dynamic as he had with Cable in Deadpool 2. Everyone knows the true best Deadpool pairing is Deadpool and and Spider-Man. The two are both wisecracking outsiders who love to push buttons, but they operate in such different ways that their friendship is both incredibly believable and creates a lot of chaos. But did you know that Deadpool and Spider-Man have a child together? It's true. Sure, not in the traditional sense, but both genes for Deadpool and Spider-Man were spliced together and inserted into a patient, transforming a young girl into Itsy Bitsy. Only she inherited the worst of her dad's powers and had a sick sense of humor and wanted to eliminate everyone. Man, raising kids is hard, right? Okay, and while that's not actually a traditional child, did you know that Deadpool does actually have a daughter? Yeah, her name is Ellie, and of course, given that it's Deadpool, the story is sadly tragic. The girl's mother comes to Deadpool for child support, but eventually ends up dying. Deadpool helps set up Ellie to be taken care of by a foster family, and while his memories of her have come and gone over recent years, now that he remembers her, he's decided to stay out of her life for her own good. Ah, that's sad. I guess I prefer the Itsy Bitsy story. Deadpool doesn't necessarily always get along with a lot of heroes, and it's probably better for everyone if he just works alone. So when he found Captain America willing to put him front and center on his team, Deadpool jumped at the chance. Only there was a small problem. It wasn't technically the heroic Steve Rogers, it was the evil Captain America who had his history rewritten, where now he was an evil Hydra agent running around yelling that classic "Hail Hydra." Deadpool was manipulated to do a lot of evil things for this version of Cap, including killing Agent Phil Coulson. Yep, that's right, Coulson can't really catch a break in live action or in the comics. But where Coulson in the MCU was brought back to lead 7 seasons of a TV show that's now definitely not exactly canon, the comic version of Coulson was brought back to life by Mephisto and turned into a villain. All this happened because the Merc with the mouth wanted to fit in with Captain America. Okay, so we all know Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, right? What about Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe again? Yeah, it's not like he kills the Marvel Universe a lot, but more so than your average hero. But getting rid of Marvel heroes must get tiring and boring after a while, so it's important to mix things up a bit. Did you know there's a 2013 series called Deadpool Killustrated? In it, Deadpool has one of his major epiphanies about his existence and decides he doesn't like how he and his friends are trapped in an endless cycle of bloodshed. They fight, they die, they're resurrected over and over again. To fix this problem, Deadpool travels through the nexus of all realities and starts killing classic fictional characters like Moby Dick and Sherlock Holmes. The thinking is that if Deadpool eliminates these characters, modern-day superheroes would have no one to be based off of and cease to exist. I mean, the logic is pretty sound, right? So I know that the Into the Spider-Verse stories get the majority of the multiverse attention when it comes to gathering groups of the same hero across multiple universes, but really the Deadpool Corps deserves love too. So almost every universe has their own version of Deadpool, and a lot of the time they're incredibly wacky or bizarre or different, but always generally have the same type of Deadpool personality. I mean, one Deadpool seems like enough for anyone, so now imagine an infinite supply of them. So one time in the comics, Deadpool had to form his own team that he called the Deadpool Corps in order to save the multiverse from destruction. It was great. We got to see Lady Deadpool, Kidpool, Dogpool all interact with one another. And of course, it wouldn't be a Deadpool story unless things got weird, and everything started to break down when the evil Deadpool Corps showed up to fight the regular Deadpool Corps. This introduced characters like Deadpool Dinosaur and Dreadpool. Yeah, as you can imagine, it was non-stop quipping. If you had to name the heroes with the 2 best healing factors in Marvel Comics, you would probably name Deadpool and Wolverine. Both of them regenerate almost immediately and can grow their bodies back even if they're basically destroyed all the way down to their roots. These indestructible heroes will now be teamed up in the upcoming Deadpool 3 and will get into all sorts of misadventures, but I wonder how much they'll connect the 2 of them. In the comics, Deadpool actually received his healing factor from Wolverine after being experimented on, linking the 2 together in ways they never would have imagined. Now that these characters can all play together in the giant MCU sandbox, I hope they bond over the healing factor abilities and wax poetic about what it means to be basically indestructible. Deadpool doesn't necessarily like himself a lot of the time. He understands his personality can be grating in how he comes across to people. It's not like this is an act he's putting on to specifically annoy people, but it's just who he is as he battles all the voices in his head. It's a tough existence overall. That's what makes the lead up to the Secret Wars comic event even more tragic. So in the comics, Deadpool went through an arc where he was able to give up being Deadpool and leave a new happy life. The villainous ultimatum was targeting Wade and his family, and once Deadpool put a stop to it, he was able to live happily ever after and not have to be Deadpool anymore. Well, it didn't last very long. When Secret Wars brought an incursion that slammed together Earth 616 and Earth 1610, things got messy, and when the smoke cleared, Wade was back to being Deadpool and had his happy ending erased. I want Deadpool to have a happy ending, but I also don't want to stop reading Deadpool stories, so it's always a tough dilemma. So you just heard me go on about how Deadpool doesn't like himself, right? Well, this little secret makes that all the more clear. One time in the Despicable Deadpool series, Deadpool was feeling really down about himself. He felt guilty over his role in following the evil Captain America and finally reached a breaking point where he wanted to be removed from the world entirely. But it seems like he really wanted to suffer. He stole a ton of money from a group of villains and then proceeded to put a $20 million bounty on his head in order to get the worst of the worst to come after him. It almost worked too. Taskmaster and Bullseye got creative and teamed up to try to collect on the bounty. Their plan to circumvent Deadpool's healing factor was to capture him, put him through an industrial grinder, then feed the bits to piranhas, then incinerate the piranhas, and then Bullseye was going to snort those ashes. Who knows if this would have worked, but once the villains found out that Deadpool was the one who put the bounty on himself, they stopped their pursuit and told Wade to get some help. Then the Avengers got involved and everything got really messy. And I mean that literally, where just a few issues later, Deadpool covered himself with a bioweapon that made almost every hero vomit uncontrollably. Gross. So Deadpool comics are great because the Merc with the mouth really gets himself into situations that no other hero can really get into. Like, Deadpool can go and do anything. If I told you Deadpool traveled to a different planet with Hitmonkey and Stiltman to fight a robot dragon, that wouldn't stretch your disbelief, right? Yeah, sometimes Deadpool stories are wild and a lot of fun. So that brings me to the time that Deadpool became King of the Monsters. In a recent comic arc, Deadpool was hired to assassinate the Monster King after the monster was causing a ruckus in Staten Island. Deadpool is nothing if not a man able to complete jobs he was hired for, and the Monster King was indeed taken out of the equation. Only it came with an unintended side effect where Deadpool became the new Monster King. He didn't really want the job, but darn it, he was going to do his best. He ruled over all the monsters and even eventually got his own kingdom, which was eventually named Deadpoolopolis. So because this is Marvel Comics we're talking about, backstories change all the time. Deadpool has had a lot of different origins and upbringings over the years, but the one common connective tissue for all of Deadpool's backstory retcons is that they're all pretty tragic. Sure, Deadpool has lied about his backstory a lot, but his stories usually include being raised by an abusive alcoholic mother, or that his mother died of cancer when he was young. But one really twisted story came when both of his parents were pretty normal and still alive, living in Canada. That doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, things get worse. Under the influence of mind wipe drugs that the evil villain Butler was administering to him, Deadpool didn't know who he was. And then Butler told Deadpool to go assassinate Wade's parents, and since Deadpool didn't remember who they were, he did it. Yeah, that's super dark. So I already mentioned Deadpool's Secret Wars when I was discussing Deadpool and the Venom Symbiote, but there's another big thing that happened in this story. According to Deadpool, he crossed paths with the Beyonder and walked away with cosmic awareness. Deadpool was actually in the middle between the Beyonder and Doctor Doom and intercepted powers that granted Deadpool the foundation of reality. The side effects of this is what makes Deadpool aware that he's actually in a comic book and can break the fourth wall and can even speak to the writers writing his comic. I'm torn on this reveal. Sure, it's nice there's an explanation, but sometimes stuff like this doesn't need an explanation, right? I mean, if Deadpool can only break the fourth wall because of this moment, then what's She-Hulk's explanation? Madcap is a low-level villain that actually plays a big part in Deadpool's life. So this villain has a version of emotional control where he can make his enemies highly susceptible to him. One time when he was fighting Deadpool, Thor ended up incinerating both Deadpool and Madcap and turned them to dust. Wade regenerated, but because Wade was holding Madcap when it happened, Madcap's conscience was transferred into Wade. So you know how Wade always hears voices and they're usually separated by white text boxes and yellow text boxes? Well, in this period of time, the white text box was actually Madcap talking to Wade. It speaks to Wade's incredibly damaged psyche and to all the voices that he constantly has in his head who are at war with each other all the time. And now I'm going to reveal to you Deadpool's two biggest fears. And no, it's not the Fox universe or the Green Lantern movie reruns. Nope, Deadpool's fears are much more simple and even quite understandable. One of his biggest fears is in fact clowns, which I know is tough because Deadpool is such a clown himself, am I right? Anyways, the fear of clowns is called coulrophobia, and Deadpool has stated that clowns are the greatest threat to Earth right after Galactus. I mean, is he wrong? No. And on top of the clown thing, Deadpool also has bovinophobia, which is the fear of cows. He sees cows with their empty stares and think they're all just waiting for something. It terrifies him. I mean, we laugh, but when cows rise up to enslave us, we'll think Deadpool was right. Which of these secrets and storylines would you want to see in the MCU? What's your favorite secret I talked about? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching CBR.